Hello, everybody. Welcome to Drunk with Questions. I'm Gooch.
And I'm Raj. Join us as we navigate the complexities of life. Here, alcohol may not be the answer, but it's sure as hell worth a shot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Drunk with Questions, the talk show where ordinary people talk about extraordinary topics. As always, I'm joined by Raj, our co-host, and today we are blessed with the presence of Tim and Spicy. What's up, guys?
How's it going?
Not bad, doing well.
So, like we were explaining in the last episode, instead of me burning Raj as our start-off gimmick, we're going to start doing thought experiments. And today, I am going to pose a question to the group, and we'll talk about it for a couple minutes. But the real reason we're doing this is because we want to hear from you guys. So make sure you send us an email, reach out to us on YouTube or any of our other social media, and we really want to hear your thoughts on this thought experiment. But today, is vomit feces, poop, whatever you want to say? So if I throw up, am I technically pooping out of my mouth?
Such wonderful, wonderful things to talk about. First thing to start a podcast. Yes, I'm sure the people that listen to our first 5 minutes will be just suckered in by our ability to discuss poop versus vomit. But to answer your question, poop and vomit are both just excrement out of the body. And one comes out that from a second half of your body, and the other one is from the upper half of your body. So both is just a way to expel things out of your body that your body doesn't want anymore.
And that's fair. But to me, I feel like I actually don't agree with the statement that vomit is feces. I think it's two totally different things. You're trying to go all super logical on it, Brooke, Raj, sorry. And I appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you too, man.
Yes. Oh boy. But I don't know. To me, they're two separate things, right?
Explain why they're two separate things.
Well, sometimes when I vomit, there's still chunks of what I ate.
Sometimes when you poop, there's still chunks of what you ate.
You dick.
But can you poop vomit?
Can you poop vomit?
Oh, interesting.
But you can vomit poop.
You can.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then it would be two separate things.
I feel like you could poop vomit if technically...
Is diarrhea? Is diarrhea?
No,
just
like
you vomiting out of your butt?
Quick it hits.
No. I'm saying like you have like an issue where you don't digest your food well enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like me with dairy.
Yeah, you poor bastard.
Yeah. Same reason that you can poop or you can vomit poop. You can have explosive diarrhea, which is just stuff that didn't even get digested. Your body's just trying to release out of one end.
So I guess where I'm coming at it is like me personally, I'm on Gooch's camp here where I don't think it's the same thing. Usually what you're describing there is, if I believe correctly, it's an enzyme issue, like either too much or a lack of an enzyme. Like
could be an enzyme issue. Maybe you were born with a short small intestine.
I think the biggest
change.
Oh, okay. You're getting a little too far into the episode here, aren't you? But no, so I think the biggest differentiation is, and this is basically all I've got to say on the topic, is, essentially like on the one end you have undigested food that's being regurgitated, and then at the other end you have food that has already been digested, nutrients removed. So like the composition is not the same.
When you have explosive diarrhea, the part of the reason that's so dangerous is because your body's not getting nutrients, just releasing everything out. So that argument doesn't work.
In the sense that like the biggest issue is your dehydration at that point. But when you think of on a a normal scale and not just the occasional that happens, hopefully it's occasional for people, is that typically it is going to be nutrients removed from the body. That's what the intestines do, and then the waste product is expelled. Whereas when you vomit, it's something going on in your stomach. It's not digested yet. Not all the nutrients has been removed. It hasn't gone through the state of digestion. So
You can
through
have
the
partially digested.
True, but in
like I
general,
said,
if we're talking about the constant, like if the normal process, then you have to digest the food, which is going to change the state of the product that's getting expelled.
So
I think it's just two different names for where it comes out of.
So this kind of
Two different names
stemmed,
for the same thing.
and some of the listeners, and you guys might know too, from the South Park episode where they would shove food up their butt and then they would poop out of their mouth.
I must have missed that one.
It's pretty good.
I think I saw that one. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because there's a thing where Martha Stewart like does a whole turkey or something. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, just
I mean, there was a whole trend where people were getting drunk by shoving the alcohol bottle and standing upside down.
or the tampons.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
You're absorbing nutrients some way.
well, because that's the thing. They're putting it in their intestines, which that is the job of them, is to absorb. And so that's a really dangerous thing. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Shampoo bottles also don't fit in there. So
Oh, dude.
I mean,
you know
I'm
this from
all about
personal experience.
you do you, but like guys, I'm sure these healthcare professionals are real tired of people just walking into their ERs on a weekly basis.
But Raj, I slipped and fell on it.
It was an accident. Oh God, no. Not shampoo bottle, please.
How do you
So-
slip and fall on a gerbil?
Officially, the Drunk with Questions crew do not approve or condone the shoving of things up your butt. Just so you know.
This is not medical or legal advice.
This is not medical. This is just us telling you not to put things that are not designed to go up there.
It's an exit.
Yep. But now that we've done with that disgusting topic that we've decided to start our episode on,
Yes, please message us with your view on whether you feel like vomit is feces, and let's move on.
Yes, we're gonna move on from that one. So let's this episode's gonna be about tinfoil hats, and you know, our resident king of tinfoil, the Lord of tinfoil, Timothy, is going to be taking us through his mind and his headspace. And I ask you all to put your seatbelt on because this is about to get wild. Tim, take it away.
All right. So it's conspiracy. Are we prepping? Well, I don't know. This might cross over into a couple different things, but this will at least get a start. Prepping home defense for international war.
Do you think international war is a conspiracy?
Oh no, it happens.
No, I guess I don't know what you're asking.
Well, that's why I'm processing my thoughts, because like I like to watch flight radar, right? Helicopter, airplane flies over my house. I usually like to see what it is. I think they're cool. But there's a lot of military aircraft that's flying around. For instance, along the southern border, there was an F-16 that was escorting a blocked airplane. Like all of the flight information was blocked.
I mean, we already know they do that, though.
That's pretty standard, though, for like military transports, because you're not just going to give all that information out to civilians.
Nuclear material transport, like it could have been anything.
Even show the plane on there.
Will they show Air Force One?
I don't think so.
No.
Well, then it could have been Air Force One.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just one jet.
Well, Tim. Here's the thing: not very many.
Maybe
people
Kamala was on there. And they didn't care that much.
No, they need her, bro. Biden's not going to last much longer the way he's going, so they need at least somebody.
Oh,
that's fair.
Do you think Biden's actually in charge of the White House?
I don't think the president's ever been in charge of the White House.
No, it's always been corporations.
It
hasn't always been corporations.
Yeah, well, before the time when multi-million-dollar oligarchs and corporations didn't exist, yes, the president had actual power. But nowadays, with everything that exists and how the economy works and how everything else works, these presidents, even though they make decisions, it's primarily based on who their supporters are. And most of the time, they care about the big supporters being big corporations.
But I
Well,
don't
now
think Biden has the mental capacity to even make any decision.
Oh, I'm not arguing against that, but the it's one of those things where too, I think it's not even just the president. I think the bigger picture with that is like the multi-million-dollar corporations and stuff going through and controlling like state senators and congressmen because they're the ones that legislate the laws and they go to the president's desk to be signed. So, I mean, I think that's definitely valid. Back to your flight thing. I think it's not really like
It's spicy. You just can't let it go, can you?
I think you're reading a little too much into a blocked aircraft on a flight radar.
Like
I
that
mean,
night he
it could
sent
be.
us the Apache that did like 12 holding patterns in northern Knoxville.
You can see
Oh,
a guy
yeah.
learning how to fly an Apache, and they're like, "Hey, do a holding pattern for me. Let me see if it works." And
We got
then,
bases
why doesn't
all
he
over the
fly?
country, and what?
He should just fly over the airport instead
Well-
of like dipping down through the mountains of Tennessee.
Maybe they were testing him on mountainous terrain.
The thing is, I mean, there's
Yeah.
Find a
flights,
backwoods hillbilly playing a banjo.
probably, but no, I mean, the thing is, military aircraft and stuff like that. Nick would be a better one to speak on this, but he couldn't make it tonight. But in general, I mean, they have training exercises all over the country. We have bases all over the country. They're not just going to constantly fly over an airport because then your training is going to basically be worthless. Like you have
Yeah.
no terrain to work around, nothing like that.
Although the Air Force did get into some trouble when they were doing a media thing because they were tracking civilian vehicles on the highway with Predator drones for training. And that
they were
has-
unarmed. They were unarmed drones. Like,
Yeah, but it was a part of it was questionable because they technically weren't allowed to do that.
Wouldn't that fall under the Patriot Act?
They violated basically, I think what it would be is a violation of SOPs, like training operating procedures, standard operating procedures, that in the event that something wasn't checked properly and it say there was one that ended up being a live drone, then obviously you'd have an issue on your hands.
got drone striked in the middle of a highway. I
mean-
I'm just imagining, just like you're just driving along and the car in front of you just explodes. Just-
Yeah, John
Like,
Smith
oh.
is taking his family on a vacation to the Ozarks, and somebody just called in a kill streak on him.
Predator missile just comes out of nowhere. Oh my god.
Driver
wouldn't-
training didn't prep me for this.
No, and the drones are so, oh my god. I can't even imagine just like the sheer panic that would ensue after with people thinking that they were being attacked. Like, remember when Hawaii went into panic because somebody accidentally sent out a missile warning?
Yeah, and then that
Oh
person
my
was
God.
fired.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
thing. They literally, everyone on that island thought they were about to get nuked by North Korea.
Oh yeah, they
Yeah.
100% did.
Like, oh my god, like imagine that level of craziness. Speaking of that, do you guys know that the US has lost a substantial amount of nukes throughout the years? Just gone missing.
That
Yeah.
does not entirely surprise me.
Yeah, they're just gone. Like, they don't have any account for. Like, it's gotten to the point where, you know, like these nuclear weapons, these are world-ending weapons. Like, once they get launched, like the world comes to a standstill as we know it. And there's cases where like they left nuclear weapons accidentally on the tarmac. And like some poor private just doing log checks comes across like 4 nuclear missiles just
Missing.
in a hangar, just hanging out. These like,
I know there was a guy that found one. I don't remember if it was buried or how he got it, but then he actually found a way to like set it up and it actually powered his house for like 25 years or something.
pretty sure that's like a federal crime or something.
It
Pretty
probably
sure
was.
that man is
Yeah.
the goat.
Yeah, I
But-
mean, as impressed as I am, I would not tell anybody about it. I'd be like, this guy's been off the grid for like the past 25 years, and he's just got lights all over the place. Like, what the hell is going
This
on?
man's
here?
running a city out here.
Oh my.
But no, I mean, it doesn't
Okay.
surprise me at all. I mean, like, look at all the guns we lost in Fast and Furious. Look at like the pallets of
Thanks,
money that just
Obama.
come up missing
Mhm.
in the ocean. We lost Waldo decades ago. Nobody's been able to find him.
Mhm.
The
Well, there's-
ultimate conspiracy. Where's Waldo?
The US has only ever admitted to 3. So there's 3 nuclear bombs that have never been located. Just gone.
Gonna say that they probably weren't, quote, lost. That's my conspiracy portion of this.
What do you think they're doing with these?
Biden's hiding
It's
them in
hard.
his basement.
It's hard to. I mean, first of all, Biden's hiding in his own basement. But
You know,
no,
Biden's lost in his basement because the lights are off.
But yeah, I know. I think it's
He
hard
only
to
comes
say.
out when he smells a child.
I can't say conspiratorially in good conscience. Like, I don't really truly believe that we would have just sold them to like a foreign power that essentially has a
would.
probability to be our enemy, like China, Russia, something like that. I don't foresee them necessarily doing that because even whatever schemes they've got going on behind the background, that'd be a really poor choice. However, do I think that maybe we supplied another allied country with them under the table? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know. Is that a negotiating thing that we do for our side?
Well, not that we know of, but it doesn't mean they don't do it.
Like even with everything that we do, like we're still stupid with these things. Like,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
there was a city that should have been destroyed, just wiped off the map because we accidentally dropped a bomb on it, and
But
But it
Oh,
the
wouldn't
only
go off
thing-
unless it was
yeah,
armed.
yeah, that's the thing though. Like it wasn't. It's still a nuclear fucking bomb that
Yeah,
was
well,
dropped,
And that's
and
the
they
thing, I
didn't
don't-
know at that time that it wasn't armed.
Yeah,
They didn't know at that time that it wasn't armed. So
and that's kind of the thing where you're like, I don't know enough about
I mean-
these things to know about all those procedures, but at the same time, yeah, it's still like obviously an issue, even if it
Mhm.
wasn't armed. But being not armed, like there's not a likelihood, or I don't think it's even possible for it to go off in a nuclear explosion because the arming device, like, is a very specific thing to a
Mhm.
nuclear device.
apparently it's a thing that there are people out in the world that think that nuclear weapons never existed. Like the guy that
What?
they went on Joe Rogan's show. He's like he's like a mixed martial arts guy. He firmly believes that nuclear weapons don't exist. And I went down this rabbit hole, and apparently it's a thing that exists.
So
How?
what
though?
My
actually
God.
let the Japanese finally see the rising sun?
They just thought it was a big ass bomb. They never admit it. They'll never admit it's nuclear. They just don't. They can't believe it. I don't
feel like they haven't
understand.
looked at
literally shadows burned onto buildings.
Oh, dude, I
They
just
just
looked at this the other
incinerated
day.
people.
The nuclear shadows,
Yeah.
like those are crazy, dude.
Yeah, I don't know
Just-
how. There's no bomb that does that.
Just vaporized.
Just vaporize people into non-existence. Like it's honestly the truly horrifying thing is looking up the after effects of what happens to these people once like 2 hours passes and they were in like a certain range where literally the
yeah.
skin from their torso
Yeah.
falls off of them like they were wearing a shirt.
Yeah.
I will
So-
say this though, in defense of that theory, Hiroshima and Nagasaki are bustling cities once again, and it's only been 60 something years, 70 years.
I think we're crossing into
I
almost 80
think-
years now.
I think that has more to do with the quality of the material that was used
Yeah. Because
and
like
the type of nuclear material.
Just a hair shy of 80 years.
yeah, it's the type
2025
of
will be 80.
it's like the specific type of nuclear material that's actually causes areas to become uninhabitable, like
Gotcha.
Chernobyl. Like
Well,
the way that those nuclear rods melted down.
Because that's what I've kind of
caused that
thought about
area.
over the years is, like you said, Hiroshima and Nagasaki have made a resurgence. They're inhabited cities, bustling. But then you have places like Pripyat outside of Chernobyl. And you have, but that's because, like you said, the reactors are melting down. There's a higher concentration of them. It's not one bomb explosion, it's an entire nuclear power plant, like the one reactor that melted down. And then the dome that had to be placed over it, like the leak through the dome, and they had to recap it, I think it was, if I remember
Have
my
you
history on
guys-
Chernobyl.
Have you guys seen the HBO show Chernobyl?
Yes.
Yes, it's very good.
So good. Dude, they had helicopter pilots flying over this thing, pouring sand or like silicon or something on it. And the one pilot flew too close to it and got cooked
Yeah.
immediately. Like
But-
that's the level of radiation. So imagine basically a funnel spewing the same amount of radiation as a nuclear bomb just for like what was it, like 20 days before they actually got
Yeah.
it fixed?
Yeah, and
So
that's the thing
that's
because
where
you
the
have like a
devastation.
higher concentration to why
Mhm.
Pripyat is still not allowed to be inhabited. Um, so but the other thing comes down to it too, that yeah, when you look at it, obviously whatever the blast rate is from the epicenter, there's horrible like devastation, destruction, people killed instantly. But yeah, it's really the thousands of people within the fallout zone that the after effects of radiation poisoning and radiation effects on people set in. One thing that I would recommend to you guys if you're ever interested in it, and also to our listeners, there is a book, I forget who the author is, called Voices from Chernobyl. And so when I was in school and we did kind of our like acting competitions and stuff like that, one of my classmates, she did a solo acting, um, like a prose piece is what they call it, enacting one of the stories as one of the characters, like telling it from her perspective, like how her husband like was in the Chernobyl area and like the how she basically what she went through with her husband going through the radiation poisoning and finally taking his life, but she was pregnant at the same time and didn't realize the destruction or that the radiation could cause to her. And so she ended up surviving, but her unborn child actually absorbed the radiation from like being around her husband and stuff like that. So a really tragic in some of those circumstances. But like if you really want to get deep dive into the effects of this had on people, I encourage reading the book Voices from Chernobyl.
And that's a
I think
touchy subject
Svetlana
too.
Alexievich, that's the name. Svetlana Alexievich, I think, is the author.
I mean, we're gonna come back to the fact that you were a theater kid, but I'm gonna I'm gonna go and I think the biggest thing is like when you deal with subjects like nuclear fallout or nuclear weapons being released, like it's the after effects. Like before Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we had no idea how this stuff affects the human body. Like we had no clue how this was going to turn out. And I think that the most messed up portion of those bombs being dropped is not just the initial devastation it caused. I think it's the fact that the U.S. sent doctors over to examine these people. They sent people over to treat these guys like lab rats to see what the effects were, how long it would take for people to die, figure out the radiuses of this stuff, and almost just like, oh, let's figure out what the next step is going to be. And I mean, don't get me wrong, dropping the bomb was a necessity because Japan was not going to surrender. And it was going to cost a lot more lives to get Japan to finally surrender. But like after dropping the bomb and after everything went down and they surrendered, you go in there and you send all these scientists to basically treat these people that have already gone through a horrible thing as lab rats.
So, as terrible as that sounds, it's not like. First off, I want to say something for the listeners that don't know. Truman had two options. It was either drop the bombs. Well, it was drop the first bomb first, and then when they still didn't surrender, they did the second one. But it was either drop an A bomb or do an invasion. And the estimates of the invasion were 1 million casualties on just the Allied side. So the real estimate was almost like 3.5 million if you included the Japanese casualties as well. That's a lot of people to die. Um, and that's just an estimate. It could have been way worse because the Japanese at the time fought to the death. There was no surrender. So it could have been really bad.
Just to give people a context of what Gooch is saying, when we took over an island, they had brainwashed the people there so badly that instead of surrendering to the United States, they were throwing themselves and their kids off of cliffs.
Yeah.
A majority of the people on that island didn't die due to war. They killed themselves because they believed that Americans were going to do worse to them.
Yep. So,
And
yeah.
we also created enough Purple Hearts during that time in preparation for mainland invasion into Japan that they were issuing World War II made Purple Hearts all the way through the Vietnam War.
Damn.
So they didn't have to manufacture any because they had such a supply of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to
Oh.
be Truman.
Is the government preparing all of us for our deaths?
I mean,
How so?
How so? Please.
No, I just wondered.
No.
You know, like I mean, this can go down another rabbit hole, like Bill Gates and the World Economic Forum and reducing global population levels. You seen any of that through
No.
disease and
Population is
vaccines.
increasing, though. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Even
and
after,
I think
But-
I think everyone can agree
They
everyone
want-
can agree there's too many people.
yeah,
There's
but
too
they
many
want to
people for
reduce
sustain.
the population.
I mean, that reduction of population can happen without killing people. They're not trying to end people. They're trying to just reduce the number of people that have one kid instead of having 15. But unfortunately, the issue is stupid breeds, and stupid can't stop breeding.
well, I would say they're doing a pretty good job, though. I mean, it's very apparent that millennials are having kids later in life or not having them at all. That's just a cold hard fact. And now with and this will go into a future episode, so we'll kind of skirt around it. But with woke culture and the Me Too movement, Gen Zers are having less sex. Male Gen Zers are having 87% less sex than millennials.
Which, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's also a lot of different factors. Like the economic factor is huge. For most of us, we have to be into our 30s before we're stable. That's just the fact, and that's just the way
But
the economy is right now. But back in the day, like 20
that's to
years
have
ago, you could have had a regular job and have been stable by the time that you're 22, 23 and start popping out kids.
but that's going about it the responsible route, because you see people who
Snoo, snoo.
are not in an economic situation just absolutely having massive amounts of children.
Yeah, and like I said, stupid breeds. Like it's part of the stupidity that you go into the idea
But
that
then
you can
through
just have
government
kids.
assistance, we just end up paying to help raise those kids anyway. So why not just have kids of your own when you can't financially support them?
I mean, what do you want to do? Do you want to throw them to? Do you want to do the Sparta style? Because I'm game. Do you want to just throw them out, check the defective ones, and toss them? Like we have to take care of these kids because you don't know. Like that's the thing. Like that's part of being a government and having a society where we support each other. Is unfortunately we have to support sometimes dead weight. Sometimes we have to support things happening where it's not optimal, but we still can't just like let them go. It's part of the reason that I don't believe that India is will ever become a first world country, is because we have that kind of issue where we have kids begging on the streets and nobody cares. You in America, you have somebody, if you have kids or you see something horrific, you report it and there's agencies that'll come in and take care of it. Doesn't exist in India.
So I'm not trying to be an ass, but what I'm about to say kind of sounds like it. But what you guys are talking about actually are two conflicting ideals. So let's say that the world shadow government, right, does technically want the population to go down. Okay, that's fine. So you do what we were just talking about, where like Gen Z is having less sex, millennials are having kids later, and obviously you got to get through the baby boomers and all that. But once they're gone, you're going to have a significant downturn in population, at least for first world countries, right? The problem is, if you're also the shadow government, then you believe that people that have lower IQs are more likely to do your bidding or vote the people that you want in or whatever, right? You want their population to increase so that the kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like they can't technically go hand in hand. They would have to choose. Do you want people to get stupider in the future? Or do you want less people?
Well, I mean, I think people are getting, as a whole, we're getting dumber and dumber. And it's becoming a problem where you have people that are not, you don't have to be educated to be smart. Like you don't have to have formal education to be smart. Like there's plenty of people out there that are very smart and are very handy and can do things that somebody that went to college can't do. But at the same time, there are those people that are unwilling to grow. They're the same person they were when they got out of high school. They've done nothing, and they've pretty much had the same ideology of everyone around them. They're unable to think or do any type of critical thinking, and that's the biggest issue. Those people will breed, and they will create children that will be the same. Because who do those children have to look up to? Who do those children learn from? So if you want to increase that population, then you can go ahead and do that. And then the issue is the people that are smarter and trying to build wealth and trying to create a stable life tend to have less kids. unless you're Mormon. I don't know how they do it, but they just keep reproducing and they're still stable. So
It's the church money.
they have the community chest. Yes, it's almost like it's the same thing with these Orthodox Jews. That I used to live in an area that was heavily Orthodox Jews, and they give loans out of their. They don't ever go to a bank for a loan. They get 0% loans from their church. Same thing probably with a lot of these places. So they can buy a house without having anything put down. The church pays for everything, and then if they're part of the church community, they're more likely to pay it back. So it just worked for them.
What happens if they don't pay it back?
They get excommunicated.
Jewish mafia.
Excommunicated or executed?
No executions. I mean, just excommunicated, I
That
guess.
we know of.
I mean, it's the same thing for, if you are a disciple in Islam, like they have banks set up where you pay zero interest, or they have ways of working on it, because for them, interest is looked at as a form of slavery. You are owing money. Yeah,
they are not wrong.
Yeah, so like they're keeping you subjugated. It's the reason that like I don't agree with the mortgage system. Like I work in finance and I don't agree with the mortgage system because the first 15 years of your house that you buy, you are pretty much just giving money away. So imagine in the first 15 years, something happens after 15 years and you got to sell the property to pay for something. You don't have any equity. You paid the bank 15 years. It would make, honestly, it would be better if they said, oh, the first 15 years, you're going to be paying more on the actual house. And then after that, we'll collect the taxes on the back end. But the bank won't do that because what they're hoping for is, okay, in 15 years, you either can't, you come into something happens, you got to refinance. And then they refinance you into another 30 year. And then you spend another 15 years of that 30 year paying interest. And you're just never building any wealth. So if anybody's buying a house, if they're doing anything, make sure that, don't do the, zero down and just pay your monthly income. Either pay extra, build some equity, or put like 20% down and then buy a house. Because at the very least, you'll own something. And it's just the case now. Yeah. So, I mean, the whole idea that, it's not a conspiracy theory that we as a civilization are getting dumber or that these big corporations want us to get dumber. I mean, I feel like that's true. That's the same reason that we perpetuate social media like crazy, and the same reason that we idolize these ridiculously stupid people that, are
like
just
Alex
doing
Jones.
Yeah, this guy right here. I'm talking to you, Alex Jones fans. Like, you are the dumb people. You are the idiots in the group that we want you to stop breeding. So please, I don't care what you say about me. You can say whatever you want. You are the idiot. You're the one that everyone's laughing at, but you're laughing with us thinking that it's a funny joke.
Spicy, do you have any interesting tinfoil hat ideas?
I mean, I'll tag whatever I have onto this one first, and then, I mean, I'm not going to get too deep into it because I think my thoughts on it could segue into not only our future episodes in like a woke style argument, but also in the education system in general and the issues that has. I think too the trend that you're seeing as well. I'll dip into it just slightly. What you said about how, with woke culture nowadays, with the modern culture the way it is, people holding up. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of it stems from people are, like I said, putting their careers first. They want to get to a certain position. It also plays a lot in for women. With modern like third wave feminism, because there's about two other waves before it. They have there's more focus on you don't need to be married, kids, they'll hamper your career, XYZ. And while that may be true, it's causing the population of the generation now to be put off kids later and later and later. And realistically, there is that time frame, especially with women, about like having children without there being like risks involved. So the more that happens, and when you look at it from a political perspective, and I'm not saying right, wrong, or indifferent, typically people that tend to have a more left-leaning ideology are the ones that are putting off kids longer, in the sense that they're trying to prepare for careers and stuff like that. However, people that are more conservative or have Judeo-Christian values, family is important as well. So they may not be entirely where they want into their career, but I'm also not saying that they're all like not in a place that they can support a family and stuff like that, but they're willing to have more kids. They think that having a bigger family is important. some people obviously go to like the 15 kids. I'm talking more of like 3 to 5. Like to me, that's a big family because I come from only having one sibling. So I'm from a family of 2, and max I'd probably ever want 4 kids. Like beyond that, man, I love kids. There's a lot to deal with them,
Have them all.
You won't get me this time, Tim. But no, so there's a lot to unpack there that I can't really in this topic per se, because that segues into a whole lot of different subjects that we may touch on in future episodes here. So I won't do a deep dive into that too much.
Absolutely. I think we can go into a whole episode just on population and population control, because like that's a pretty big topic. Like
I'll tell you my personal beliefs on population control.
Yeah. He likes but he's like unlimited population. We're not taking you to Mars. Calm down.
If we overpopulate the world, will we all fall off the edge?
It's just everybody just packed in a line and just waiting. Yep. The next one gets born and the oldest one gets pushed off the edge.
Yep.
We have to find the edge of that flat disc or the donut. The cylinder.
It's like those Halo rings.
The Halo ring.
We've just been stuck. We just don't know. We don't have the 4th dimensional ability to see that we're in a cage. Speaking of that, flat earthers. I wanted to talk about this since the last time we did tinfoil hats, and I have been so excited and just chomping at the bits to execute these people on our podcast, because my God, if there's
he almost said on live TV.
I wish I could do it. I'd do it on live TV. Screw my career. God, if there's anybody that's holding back the human civilization, it's people like this. Like, and maybe it's just me, but I feel like we have too much time on our hands, and we are just creating the most ridiculous conspiracies now, compared to, they still had conspiracies in the 60s, but it seemed like most of their conspiracies actually had more factual weight behind it. Nowadays, we're just throwing whatever we want at the internet and basically hoping that it takes flight. And unfortunately, there's enough dumb people to just believe stuff like this. And, how do you think this even came to be?
Okay, so I have chosen, since Raj apparently needs to get up on a pedestal to be eye height with me. I've chosen to be the devil's advocate in this. First off, is it even a conspiracy theory? Because technically it was a belief at one point in time. The other thing too,
back when churches used to burn you for thinking differently.
The other thing too is technically, how can we ask people to believe something that they, as of right now, can't see with their own eyes?
I mean, you can't see germs with your own eyes, but how you can get a cold. You understand how you can get sick. I can't see a
flat earther's brain.
How do I know it exists?
I know it's still there.
It's flat.
Well, I mean, obviously with the germ thing, like
they just all have TBIs, just pancake brains.
Yeah.
But some people, like, they don't believe that they don't believe in modern germ theory. They don't believe that colds come from germs. They believe that colds come from you actually decreasing body temperature and going outside and being cold. Like, that's not me advocating for this.
What did you just say?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did you just tell me that they believe that they can go outside and piss gold?
No, they get a cold from being cold.
Hold up. There's major miscommunication here.
Yeah,
I thought you said they thought that it was from them being cold and then they would go outside and piss gold.
No.
And you didn't realize that was alchemy? That's alchemy, bro.
That is alchemy, but what in the heck?
So to our listeners, you'll have to forgive King Midas over here.
I'll bleep it out. It was worth it. 1,000%. I was so confused.
No, and so that's the thing. It's like, obviously, a lot of us, obviously, a lot of these things, the flat earth theory, the germ theory, all this, we don't have the capability to test these on our own in a lot of circumstances. So that's why we're taking the word of modern scientists, people that have published these articles and stuff like that in medical journals, scientific journals, peer reviewed. So there's there's a trust and a faith aspect that comes into this, because you're basically trusting that these people have done the work and can show you in the proofs and everything that, you know, you accept this as true. And that's, I'm not saying that you shouldn't. It's one of those things where obviously you just don't have the ability to test it yourself, like in most people's circumstances. Like, I can't test that there are germs here. Like, there's no way for me to observe this fact. You basically, but you know through the scientific knowledge that that is the case.
No.
You can
test for germs.
You can lick a toilet seat.
People realized the Earth was
Oh,
round using
gross.
the most rudimentary. Literally, we had two people that were a couple miles apart look down a well, and they used the shadow of the sun to figure out, hey, Earth. The only way this works is if the Earth is round. It didn't take rocket science to figure it out.
No, correct. I mean,
It's the
obviously
reason we have time zones.
yeah, and
I throw a
obviously-
rocket, go down. Gravity.
And obviously there are ways, like obviously we test for germs, but I'm saying, you know, other people rely on others to do those tests for them. They don't have the capability to do it themselves, or like they don't understand what backs up these tests.
Well,
So
if
that's where
there's
you get some of
somebody-
this. That's what I'm saying. That's where some of these come from, where people like they don't have either the understanding, or they don't want to understand it, or they don't have the ability to actually conduct the test themselves. And so they sometimes just come up with things where like, I don't know, if I can't see it with my eyes. So for some people too, their only like source of believing in it is, if I can't see it with my eyes, it's not real.
So then technically, would those people have to believe in parasites? Because you can easily see, I think, all parasites with your eyes.
Let me throw one back at these people. If they can't prove that the Earth is round, they can't prove that the Earth is flat either. If they're unwilling to do the work to prove it's not round, then they can't prove that it's flat. Like, I
mean,
don't understand the logic of these people. It's almost like they have a hole in their brain.
the one guy
like-
shining the light at certain distances through the holes, he's like, yeah, if the Earth is flat,
This
it
guy
will go,
went up.
like, you'll
This
see
guy
the
made a
light.
show. He had a show and a
Yeah.
whole demonstration set up to show that the Earth was flat. And then the demonstration he had showed the Earth was round. And he's just like, "Oh, technical
Yes.
difficulties."
Yeah.
Like,
Now,
dumb
and
mother-
here's where I come from it from a different standpoint. While some of these people may act like certifiable crazy people, because you're like, obviously we've proven this is the case. I don't know how you still believe this another way. On the other hand, you know, there are people throughout history that have questioned a lot of things. You know, obviously when things were being discovered in different areas of science, mathematics, all these things, some of those people turned out to be right. People mocked them for being crazy people. I'm not saying that that's the group of flat earthers. They're not going to prove their thing right. However,
Don't you even put them in the same category. Don't
No,
you do it.
No, but what I'm saying, if somebody questions something, I don't think it's an automatic, this person is stupid, they should be excommunicated from the world.
But like we have high definite. Yeah. Oh, honestly, yeah. Excommunicate these mother. Oh my God. Yeah. No.
So,
No. But at least with the church, they're just like, yeah, the Earth is round. We're just the center of the universe, and they're just like,
yeah.
that was the thing. At least it made. They still took the facts of the experiments, and they're like, all right, even though we'll give you that the Earth is round, but we're still the center of the universe. I'll
Right.
take that over.
But here's the thing, who's actually, like, how many people are actively converting over to flat earthers?
A lot more than you
A
think,
lot.
Spicer. It's
A
scary.
lot.
So I was watching this thing of flat earthers not too long ago, and this girl in the I'm sorry. So this girl in the Northeast, she goes, the guy says, "Hey, you believe in flat earth?" "Oh yeah, I believe in the flat earth." And he goes, "Why?" And she's like, "Well, my dad was my grandpa was a lobster fisherman, and he went up into the Arctic there, and he never came back. And I swear he just fell off the face of the earth." It's like, dude, you can't just accept that maybe the boat sank. Anything could have happened.
And
Fucking ships sink.
You go,
Yeah.
you go to, he fell off the side of the earth.
yeah, don't get me wrong, like, these people have jumped a whole lot of other obvious conclusions to come up with that one.
That's like the new dad went to go get cigarettes and never came back.
Yeah, he fell off the side of the earth. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone
Your
knows.
Your
Not
grandpa
that he
definitely
just
didn't go to the
didn't come
Bahamas. He definitely didn't go to the Bahamas and marry a
He's
brown
just
woman.
sick of his family. He's like, I'm done being a lobster fisherman. I'm heading to Florida.
Yeah. It's like, remember that, like, bar on the beach? Yeah, he owns that now.
The Scoonhound is his.
Coonhound.
But no, yeah, it's dude, I don't know how
One
people
four
can.
one four left my family way is his address, honey.
So what gets me is like not the people that were like born and raised believing this because they were taught this by their parents or relatives, but the people that are actively converting into it.
That's what I'm thinking. I think that
Yeah.
the big, like, I don't know if it's a conspiracy of like, is it like a cult where they're
Or
just
is it a
like,
meme?
yeah, is it a meme thing? I can't tell. Like, is
I
this
think
an
it's a bit of
actual
both.
conspiracy?
I think it's a bit
Like,
of both. I mean, some people I think it's a meme thing. I mean, they're like jumping on the bandwagon. Other things, you know, they find people that look, and nowadays I think there's a lot of people looking to find something or someone to believe in, you know, to trust in. They're questioning everything around them. They find somebody who's charismatic. They start buying into what they're saying. They seem legitimate. They try to back it up. It has a lot of similarities with cult foundings in that way. So I would say that's probably a big component to it, in my opinion.
is this the Scientologists? Is this their ploy? Is
No.
this how they're trolling us? Like, is it like, did they
Oh my
believe in the
God, what
flat
if it
Earth?
was?
Dude, what if it was the biggest troll in history?
Yeah, hey,
They've
like,
just
hey
been,
guys, the flat Earth thing, that was us.
dude, I'd have so
I
much
mean,
respect, so much respect for them if they trolled somebody like that.
So as of right now, the Flat Earth Society Facebook page has 209,399 people following it.
That is a lot.
But in defense of your point, Spicer, there is no Flat Earth headquarters. So my theory would be they're not really getting funds. You know, like if it was growing, you would want to like have a place to congregate. In
Well, I
my
think so.
view,
And I think the aggregate data there of that many followers on their Facebook page, we don't know the motivations of those
Dude,
followers.
it's
There
the
could be a
dark.
large component of them that are purely following that page just for a laugh.
Dude, while we're having this Zoom conversation, somewhere in the earth, there's another person having like a 200,000 person Zoom meeting about flat Earth.
Yeah.
That's their church. Their church is their mom's basement.
So I don't doubt that like that's probably not the amount of people that actively believe in it, because my guess is there are probably a lot of people on there that are following it just to either keep tabs on it or wondering what the heck is going on a Facebook page like that. Like, I gotta know.
Well, we literally have things in space now taking full HD pictures of the Earth,
Yeah.
and like they still won't believe it. Like they won't look at it and be like, "Oh, that makes sense." Like,
I think a lot of that too comes from people that like their distrust of organizations or government kind of goes into some of that, where they're like, well, I can't trust who took the picture. I don't know. Cite it. And they cite it for you. They're like, I can't trust that they took that picture. I think they just made it up.
all
They're like,
CGI.
no, we've like totally verified that this is a legitimate photo from the telescope in space. And they're like, I don't believe it. They could have doctored that too. Like,
okay,
eventually there's just a never ending rabbit hole with some of these people.
so
know what
here's
you're
my
gonna say.
challenge. Here's my challenge to you guys. I want each of you to create a conspiracy for why they would want us to believe that the Earth is round and not flat.
Why they would want us to?
Why would the governments of the entire world hide that the Earth is actually flat and not round? And what would be their reasoning?
so one of the main things that drives people to be better people or more productive in society, and it's a lot of them, is the ideal that something better will happen to them when they die. So there's certain civilizations and religions that literally say the better you do, the better you are if you get reincarnated, right? And there's others religions that say if you're a good person in life, then you'll go up to God or whatever, and you'll be in His holy sanctum. If the Earth was flat, then we would have a very difficult time explaining the universe, because with what all the scientists are saying about how planets are spheroids and there's an entire universe, and you can think, wow, there's so much out there, God's out there, everything like that. if the Earth is flat, then the question would be, is there even a universe? Or are we literally just like a placemat on somebody's dinner table? And it might cause people to not believe in organized religion anymore.
So I've definitely got one for you. So the
Okay.
conspiracy theory I'm going to come up with why the governments of the world would want us to believe that the Earth is round and not flat. So if we believe the Earth is round, it kind of ties into what Gooch just said. You believe that you exist on a fully formed planet in the universe as a part of a solar system and a cluster of stars, and that there's an infinite universe out there, yada yada. So we think that life is just going on as normal. You know, we take trips overseas to different countries, all these different things, and we've got basically with the idea that we live in like this round world that you can just take these travels by plane around the globe, and it's continual. What they don't want us to realize is that if we got to the edge of the Earth, because it actually is flat, then we would be essentially at the edge of the map, and that would start to encroach on the edge of the simulation.
What if there's a giant titan holding up our flat Earth?
Are you talking about Atlas from Greek
Yes.
mythology?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like he's just holding us up like a waiter with a dinner tray?
Okay, to be fair, that'd scare me,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that the world is balanced on the hand of a giant whatever.
So you're
cosmic
thinking this
god.
conspiracy is to keep humanity sane. They don't want to release that information.
I would think so.
I say it's because they can't afford to have anybody break the simulation.
I think it's just to keep
I
both
would
sides
take
divided.
that. Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
You think
Okay.
it's what?
You have to have division to create unity. As long as people
Fair.
are distracted by stupid stuff, they'll all just go about their lives being mad at the opposite side, but never actually do anything to solve the issue.
So it's a divide and conquer kind of tactic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at our society nowadays, I mean, everything is over sensationalized, like overstimulated. Like there's just so much out there thrown at people with social media and everything like that. They're looking for almost like that serotonin high of like, I have to have something engage my attention at a higher level than it did before. Otherwise, I'm not interested in it.
But do they really need to have this conspiracy for that? The moment they drew
Oh,
borders
no,
on a
absolutely
map,
not.
they automatically created that. The moment those little dotted lines were added to a map anywhere, that hostility and hate for one another is already started. So this is like in terms of conflict, it'll always exist. Doesn't matter if the earth is flat, round, or a trapezoid, it's still gonna have that issue. So oh my god, is this an actual flat earth society webpage?
It is.
Oh my god. For anyone that is normal, please feel free to go to
How many are
theflatearthsociety.org.
there? Hold on.
There's a lot of books.
1972.
Can you speak
65.
Venusian?
1895.
There's 14. That's not a lot of books, dude.
Oh, I thought there were way more than that.
One is called Sea
pages.
Earth Globe and its monstrous hypothetical motions.
Did he just call the earth a globe and then try to argue that it's
He might have.
what do you know? Does he not understand what the word globe means?
Here's this one. Is
Could be
Newtonian astronomy true?
Oh, does gravity exist?
1895 is the published date.
Okay, to be fair though, like non-Newtonian fluids are a pretty interesting experiment. Those are pretty cool.
I mean, along with these flat earthers, there's also people that don't believe in gravity. They don't believe it's like a pulling motion.
Yeah.
That's something too. Like, it's just like, how do you explain any of this? Like, how do you think we created all these things without understanding gravity? Like, I don't understand. These are the same people that'll claim that all this is fake and then look at their cell phone to shit post on their next blog. It's like I can't see electrons, they're not real, but I'll use this electronic device to do what I do. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. What is this? 1,000 kilometers an hour in one direction with the earth turning at another 1,000 kilometers an hour, but
Yeah, I don't know. It's this.
I like how they create these journals with scientific like format to give it some credibility, and then add like a 2-year-old's drawing of the Earth and something moves. It's just like a smudge.
That is funny. Modern aircraft can attain the speed of the 1,000 kilometers per hour spin rate. But if an aircraft is flying at this rate in the same direction as that of the rotation, it could not cover any ground at all. It would remain suspended in midair over the same spot.
I mean,
So I
but-
mean that's what the space station can do. Yes, if you're outside of the atmosphere and you're outside of the controls of Earth and you are spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, or if the Earth is spinning at 1,000 kilometers an hour, and you have to maintain 1,000 kilometers an hour to stay at that exact point. I mean, he's not disproving anything here.
But
That's just science.
at the same time, it's like putting, the two attracting poles of magnets together. So you put a giant magnet on the front of your car,
What
and then
the
you hang a magnet
flip?
out a little farther on a stick with a rope.
Mhm.
And then the magnets are going to pull it towards each other, so your vehicle starts moving.
Yeah, I mean,
Before passing on, I must pause to give another way of proving that the Earth is motionless. It was outlined at a meeting of the Flat Earth Society
oh god.
some years ago, and this was published in 1972, by the way. And it is pleasingly direct. Go out at nighttime, point your camera at the stars, and make a time exposure for, say, a quarter of an hour. When you develop the plate or film, you will see numerous star trails. These trails will be hard.
Misspelling. Misspelling on the
Yeah.
scientific journal.
But if the Earth were moving, was, not were, the trails would be blurred.
What are you talking about? Like,
I don't know.
how does that make any sense? And yeah, if your camera's shit, it's going to be blurred. If it's a good camera, it's not.
If the Earth's axis pointed me way, if the axis pointed me way in summer and the opposite way in winter,
Anyway,
I'm trying to decipher.
this dude's a pirate. If the Earth's axis was pointed me way, god damn, dude. What is he trying to prove with these
Then very
children's
tall
drawings?
buildings, such as the Eiffel Tower, would sway drunkenly from side to side.
No, it wouldn't. It's not rich. What? It's not big enough to sway.
I am 100% going to have to read this book.
This is just an excerpt. Apparently, there's a lot more in it. Oh, hey, look. There's a whole... Okay, here's...
There's a
these are
Q&A.
questions. There's a
Oh,
Q&A.
no.
Okay, we're reading this for our listeners. We're gonna dredge through this.
All right, who wants to be the questioner and who wants to be the flat earther?
Oh, I want to play questioner.
All right, who wants to be the flat earther?
I'll be the flat earther.
All right.
Okay, here we
Go
go.
for it.
Question number 1, ladies and gentlemen. How do you explain the fact that if you watch a ship sailing over the horizon, you will see the hull vanish first, followed by the funnels, and finally the smoke?
Have you ever actually seen this happen?
The answer is yes. By the way, if anybody's listening, just
No,
if
you
live
keep
by the
reading
ocean-
on. Keep reading
Okay.
on.
Oh, there's more. Yes, of course. Excuse me. Questionnaire. Well, yes, I have actually. How do you explain it?
By the refraction of light, if you watch the phenomenon several times, sooner or later you will see the entire ship apparently suspended in the air above the horizon. And I imagine you don't believe in anti-gravity?
Aircraft can circumnavigate the Earth, fly east or west, and eventually you will come back to your starting point. This couldn't happen on a flat world.
Of course it could. The Earth is shaped like a gramophone record, and all you have done is to complete a circuit around the central North Pole.
Well, then try going due south. On your theory, you would go over the edge.
But no, one cannot go over the edge because there's a wall of ice in the way.
The compass direction.
You're falling into the elementary trap of supposing that the compass needle always points north. This is not me. Near the periphery of the biscuit-shaped Earth, all compass directions are distorted, and this is why some explorers have deluded themselves into believing in a South Pole.
Okay. Excuse me. After a baffled pause, Look, men have been to space and have seen the Earth as a globe. They have even seen produced photographs.
Nobody's ever seen the Earth as a sphere. All that the spacemen have been able to do is to see wider areas of the world at any one time, which is quite understandable. I believe you also consider the moon to be a globe, but if you care to look at it this evening, you will see that it appears as a flat disk.
Okay, that doesn't explain photographs.
Fakes produced by reactionary scientists in order to conceal the truth about the shape of the Earth.
Oh my god,
Wow, dude.
this
So,
is
mind you, to our
elevated.
listeners, this was an excerpt of a conversation between a questioner and somebody who believed in the flat Earth theory.
So if you noticed, every answer that they give is a double negative.
So what's the name of this book and who wrote it?
Okay, yeah, I do need to cite my source to be professional here.
We're
So
gonna get sued by the Flat Earth
This is,
Society.
this is Can You Speak Venusian from Sir Patrick Moore in 1972.
yes, circa 1972, and it's from Chapter 2, Better and Flatter Earths.
Sir Patrick Moore.
God,
I've
I
never
love
been
this book.
more
I gotta
glad
read
for
this.
a dead person. God, the
Okay.
Better and Flatter Earths.
That was painful.
Thank you for joining story time with. with I can't even say that word. Mentally divergent humans.
If you would like to have a special Drunk with Questions episode where we actually read out the characters in a play, let us know.
Oh my
I don't want to play this guy. I don't want to be Sir Patrick Moore.
I don't want to be this man. Oh, there's so many letters too.
Letter to the Science Fiction Foundation. Oh boy.
Oh my god. A map
If you-
to Samuel Routbotham's grave? What?
If you really hate somebody, sign them up for the Flat Earth Society's newsletter.
Oh yes. Go to this
That's
page.
good.
And
I
just
mean, we
sign
did
him
we did sign up my one buddy in high school to Farmers Only.
up. I mean, honestly, that's a better thing. At least you find yourself a guy or girl that can farm.
Yeah.
That's a useful skill.
You're like, this is significantly less bad.
Yeah, assuming they're not a pedophile just on there on the hunt. So. Oh yeah, now we're quoting Egyptian flat Earth. Really? We're gonna go back to Egypt times to get our information. Why is that person bent over?
That's the depiction of their essentially the goddess of the sky.
They're getting
Oh, it's their
both of their-
skybox. Okay.
Wow, this is rough.
Hey, you know what? Back in the day, this is the best they could come up with. That's half a circle. That's half a globe. I'll take it.
I mean, it kind of looks like a snow globe.
Yeah. It's still a globe.
We're halfway
I'll take
there.
it. We're halfway there. They had they had half of it figured out in the Egyptian times.
They were 100% living on a prayer.
Oh, please don't talk about flat Earth and Buddhism. My God, these people don't understand Buddhism.
They don't.
Their
at
entire
all.
concept is a circle. Like, come on now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Mount Meru.
If you want to see something, if you
Truly
want to see
horrifying.
something, go to the flatearthsociety.org. Wow.
Yeah, so that's like I said. Oh my God, I didn't even
Yeah.
need to dive this deep into this.
Yeah, another theory
Travesty
now
on
before I
humanity.
bang my face on a flat disc.
Go ahead. What's your theory?
What's my theory? I don't have any personal theories. I mean, I'm not that out there. But
Are there transformers actually in the Hoover Dam?
no.
Ooh. You know what? I respect people that think that over flat earthers.
I was gonna say that's a pretty cool theory though.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that imagination. Like,
Also, the flat Earth theory. I mean, because people obviously they see some of these works that are published online, all these other things, they start buying into it. They're like, you know what, that kind of makes sense because they're not going through the like logical like proofs through it.
mhm.
This kind of goes into the same concept of why we still have a large group of people in the world today that believe autism is caused by vaccinations.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
oh,
that is-
that's a great one. That's a great conspiracy.
So, because
Ooh.
actually, when I looked into this, there was like a documentary talking about it, and the guy that essentially was purporting this idea, obviously going against all like modern medical science and everything like that, he was basically telling people these things, and even after I forget what happened to him. I honestly don't know, but his works have been published onto the internet, and because it's one of those things that you're allowed to put your ideas out there, and but because it's still circulating, there are people that still buy into it, and they cite his sources, even though there was a whole thing that came out and disproved it. His sources are still out there, and so people are looking into that, being like, no, it's still got to be true.
Well, that's the thing, though. Wasn't it just one dude?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and he was hired by somebody, like a company, wasn't
I
he?
forget
Can't remember.
what the whole backstory was or what happened to him, but there was something about, and I don't even know who came out with the report against it that like essentially condemned his research and showed exactly why it's false and why vaccinations are not the cause of autism. At least they haven't been proven to be linked to anything like that. You know, they discredited his stuff, but because it's still out there,
Yeah, why just like I wonder what is the correlation that all of a sudden autism became the thing that vaccines are related to?
I literally think it was just this guy that started it.
Yeah, because I feel like depictions like there have been cases of people that are described in ways that would make them autistic. Like,
This was also from a time when like we really still didn't know a lot about the autism spectrum.
yeah, reading like Newton's writings and reading his like accounts from his friends and stuff, it's pretty obvious that Newton was autistic. He was
Okay.
on the spectrum. So like
So,
it existed before vaccines were even a thing. Like, I don't understand that.
Yeah,
So-
there's just yeah. Go ahead, Gooch.
yeah, sorry. The paper was published in 1998 by Dr. Andrew Wakefield in a paper called The Lancet.
The Lancet.
I think
I feel
just
like
the
I've
name
heard
of
that
a local
somewhere.
paper.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the
think it's a
thing.
medical
One doctor
journal.
did it and it just spread like wildfire, right? So the
Yeah.
media probably picked it up and other people started looking at because there's a lot of blind speculation, and because you have the doctor in front of your name, people give it more credibility than it actually
Well,
deserves.
a lot of this plays into logical fallacies with people. They don't understand that they're falling into the trap of a logical fallacy because that's an argument from authority fallacy.
Yeah,
Just because he's a doctor and he has an enumerated degree in front of his name, people are like, well, this guy's onto something new. It must be true. Like, this guy's a doctor. He went to school for this. He wouldn't lie to us. Like,
Yeah.
maybe we should look into this. And so it just spreads like wildfire at that point.
How
Yeah.
big do you think this guy's sample size was? Yes.
Well, it was not big.
I'd say I'm gonna be nice to him, say 50.
I'd say like 10 to 20.
12.
That's the thing, like, and
See,
that was
what
part
is
of the
he
proofs
doing?
with like the papers, like, and people that understand like what a scientific study would be, like they realize that that is not an appropriate sample size to be making those kinds of claims. If you
It's-
told me that you came up to this result and showed it in a journal and you had a sample size of like 200,000 people, yeah, I would probably give more credence to that.
So that's the thing. I feel like here's we go back to critical thinking, right? So like we have taken enough science classes to know that if somebody puts something out there, it is not a fact. It is not even in science. A theory is something that's been proven, that people have tested and people have redone and had the same results. Like at very most, this is a hypothesis, a most like almost an absurd hypothesis, but to the one where he literally just took 12 people, probably people that were not double negative. Like there's no double blind study here. This was probably people he knew or from his own patients that he took.
Oh, I'm
and
guaranteeing
created.
he did not have safeguards in place.
No, there was no safeguard in place. Nobody else checked this guy. And it's just the fallacy of like what you were saying, like just the numerator, just the doctor in front of his name was all it took for people to go ahead and be like, yes. And we are still fighting this today.
So not only was the sample size only 12, the official like summary of the paper basically said that the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine may predispose to behavioral regression and pervasive developmental disorder in children. Never said autism, nothing like that. Not only that, after the correlation between autism and this paper came out, 10 of the 12 authors withdrew from the study, took their name off of it, and released a thing saying that there was no causal link. No causal link was established between MMR vaccine and autism as the data was insufficient. So 2 people stuck by it. 2.
Out of 14.
Yeah.
So that's it right there. But the critical thinking aspect of it is like something happened recently where my wife was looking at like it had to do with certain foods in relation to testosterone production, right? So it was one of those Facebook ads. So she's just like, "Oh my god, look at this." And I'm like I looked at her, I said, "Okay, let's use the scientific process. Let's take a look and ask the questions. Where are they getting their data from?" We search for the actual article. Come to find out, this was done on rats. Great. So you did a test on rats, never got past the rat stage. People think that rat studies are the next step before we get to human trials. That's not how it works. Like if you do some research, you'll realize that there's like different animals that has to get through before we even get to the point that we can try it on humans and we can test to see if this is even actually effective. But the fact that you will read that and you'll be like, they'll never say this was done on rats. They'll never say this was done on tests have shown that eating this causes this, but it people will believe it. They won't actually put any effort into learning about how these tests are done, what a double blind study is, how you set up controls, how you have safeguards in place so that way whatever you do is there isn't an error that causes you to lead to that position. That's the scientific process. They'll just see the news and media is full well involved in this.
Yeah.
That's why you get the talk shows every morning that these Karens listen to, telling them that dark chocolate will help them stay younger, or that drinking a glass of wine a day. This was an actual article. Drinking a glass of wine a day is just as healthy as going for a jog.
Yeah,
Like,
so
this
a
is
lot of
wrong.
those things obviously were misleading. I mean, so and I mean, obviously, like an ounce of dark chocolate a day has certain antioxidant benefits, but it's like not the end all be all. And then they also showed too that a glass of wine a day has just as much health benefits as like a glass of grape juice, like 100% grape juice, like the structure in that.
Resveratrol, yeah, it all has to do with the resveratrol content, and it's an
Yeah,
antioxidant.
and
Like
it's not
grapes
quite
have
the
it.
same as going for a jog.
Yeah, it's
Now,
not the same.
can it improve some heart health components? Yeah, it could.
Yeah,
Like, but
antioxidants,
it's
resveratrol is known for that. But here's the thing: so is going for a jog and eating healthier foods. Like maybe don't eat as much calorically dense foods before you go to bed. Like there's things that you
yeah.
can do, but
And that's the
it's
thing, like they kind of take these things and they run with it. And then
and
also too with these studies, like the sponsored stuff you see on Facebook, like you mentioned, if it has sponsored below it, it's almost entirely probably a scam. Like,
absolutely,
because anybody can
absolutely,
pay for an ad out there. And the thing is
yeah.
too, when you get to this kind of stuff, you really need to look at like what are the studies, what was your sample size, all the things that you're talking about, but you also need to look at who is the backer of the study and what could that company or person have as a personal motivation behind it.
So
So, Wakefield was funded by lawyers who had been engaged by parents in lawsuits against vaccine producing companies.
Oh, there you go.
oh well, there you go. That's your reason why this is not. So
Yep.
you can't even trust tested by independent anymore. That can be
No.
anything. That doesn't mean anything. You could pay an independent company and you're still paying them to do this research to back up what you're trying to do. Like my dad's been in research his whole life. That's what he does. So he researches cancer, and recently in the past 10 years he's been doing more diabetes research, and he sees firsthand how a lot of these people are in research. Like they have to coddle up to these pharmaceutical companies to get the funding they need to produce this research, to then also like have them as oversight to verify results. That's not how science works. You cannot have that. You can't be independent if your overlords are people that need you to get a certain result, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like the Pied Piper of all of this is the Dr. Oz. This guy is like the dude for just selling you miracle cures. If a snake oil salesman existed in today, he would be that guy. He'd be the dude rolling up to your town in a buggy and selling you elixirs, telling you that you're going to lose weight or you're going to have your heart on again. Or
Oh,
You muted yourself again.
yeah.
yes, I just don't like the idea of people not understanding what they're reading and then just blindly believing it.
Yeah, I mean, but that's been a thing since the beginning of time, and I think it's honestly it's going to continue because unless somebody takes a diligence approach to it, there's no real getting around it.
I have a really good conspiracy theory that I just heard this morning that I thought about when you guys brought up the pharmaceutical company.
Hit us with it.
Let me hear it.
Okay. Dandelions.
What?
Dandelions, right?
Actually, super healthy.
They are very healthy for you. As a matter of fact, they're so healthy for you that a majority of your heart medications have something that's in a dandelion root in it. The companies or company that makes some of the biggest heart medications, the pharmaceutical company, I want you to guess what other thing that pretty much everyone has in their shed, what they own.
Weed killer?
Roundup.
Oh,
Wait, what?
The pharmaceutical company that makes a majority of the big time heart meds that are prescribed to people also own Roundup.
That's a good one.
They
That's creepy, dude.
That's a
And they
good
always
one.
tell you dandelions are bad. Get them out of your yard, bro.
We used to sell dandelion tea when I
But-
worked at GNC. It was a
Yep.
very popular, like, over the counter medication people used to take. It's also a really good diuretic.
and with
That's
the
just how
food thing that,
pharmaceuticals work, though.
yeah, well, and the thing is, the food thing Tim brought up is like dandelion greens are actually really popular to be cooked.
Or
Mhm.
dandelion wine
What?
It's used in Asian
is also a thing
cuisine
too. Yeah,
Dandelions have been
Wine?
used.
Yeah, he's
wine.
not wrong.
Yeah,
Ooh.
they like the flowers. It's
Ooh.
created into wine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that'd be very good, personally.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff created into
Be kind of bitter.
But
alcohols.
same thing with like the pharmaceutical companies, though, right? They're all in bed with everybody else, so they like Americans. Everybody knows Americans are like not healthy, right? That we eat garbage for food essentially. And who's funding that, right? Like these big, I think it's like what, 8 organizations or 8 conglomerates that essentially own everything that make you think that you're buying a competitor product. And then the pharmaceutical companies sell you the cure to the illness that they gave to you in the first place.
Do you think we have a cure for cancer?
No, not yet. I don't think so because it's a complicated issue, and the biggest thing I would like to believe that there is a cure out there, but I've seen the research process and I understand how slow it is. When I was in college, I did work with neuroblastoma, which is a cancer that kills infants, usually within the mother or just immediately after being born within the first 6 months. So the process for getting results for this, because we were working, how it works is these teams work on minor portions of the bigger problem. So these teams, I've done experiments probably 12 times in a row, doing the same experiment over and over again, and had to start over. Because the issue is you need these results to match up every single time. If you have 5 times you run an experiment and one of those times is an anomaly, you have to run those 5 experiments again. So this process is very slow. And really, like, cancer research is maybe 50, 60 years old at most. And like it's only recently gotten to the point where we can actually target these cells and actually understand what's happening within the body for this. And when you have complex issues, like right now, our option is just to nuke your body. That's what we do. When you do chemo, we just nuke your body and say, all right, we got to kill whatever we can and just hope that we get rid of all the cancer cells. And for most of that time, you hurt other organs and other cells too. But the new process of the only real way to target cancer and actually get rid of it and cure it is to target cancerous cells. You can't use that using DNA because the cancerous cells have your DNA. So you can't use DNA based targeting. So how do you go and target individual cells? Right now, they're working on hormone therapy, where they're trying to find what hormones attach to cancer cells and don't attach to your normal cells. And then how do we use those hormones to signal, okay, these are all cancer cells, these are the ones that should be attacked. And I mean, they're doing research into all kinds of stuff, like microscopic robots that can help go in and actually kill off these cells. And this process is long. Like, there's no way to eventually get rid of cancer because it's a mutation of your own DNA. So they can fight off this cancer, but then you might form another one because you've already started this mutation process. So it's not like we've had a cure and pharmaceutical companies are just trying to hold it off, because like there is conspiracies like the end of life treatment versus like actual treatments that'll cure you. There's certain things that they are doing with that, but in terms of cancer, I don't think that's the case because it's just too complex of an issue.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm on the same boat. I don't think that they have like a straight cure to it, especially because there's so many different kinds of cancer that we have discovered that don't require the same treatment, or they may not attack the body the same way. So it's a complex issue that I don't think they're holding the cure to cancer, because I don't think there's a cure to every type of cancer. Like, even if we had the cure to one, we're not going to have it for all of them.
I think the robots would be the best way, personally.
The nanobots.
Yeah, pretty much, because then you could just program them and from right next door or from your iPhone if you're the doctor, and
Yeah.
be like, hey,
Oh.
it's it's lymphoma, so you're only got to focus on the blood cells, or it's breast cancer, so flood that area and figure out where it's at.
Bad news is side effect, probably going to be a Decepticon.
You just start having just Decepticon parts come out. You turn into Cyborg from Teen Titans.
Yep.
See, that's why we're
Hey.
working on the Transformers inside of the Hoover Dam.
Hey, I
I was cured, but they hit me with the mother box.
You go in for cancer, you come out RoboCop. It's just, okay, we had to take 90% of your body.
But did you? No, but we thought this was cooler.
This is cooler. We gave you a robot dong. You'll be happy. I guarantee it.
It's the first thing Raj thinks about.
Please, like, you guys didn't think about that immediately. You didn't immediately watch RoboCop and be like, "Oh, did they give him a massive dong?" Like what about his wife? Was that part of her care package? She got a bunch of money, and he's giving her. They gave him a pile driver.
So go ahead,
Go
Gooch.
ahead.
So honestly, I was just trying to think of other conspiracy theories I've heard over time, and this is taking a total left fielder from where we're at in the medical science-based stuff. One conspiracy theory: Nicolas Cage is an immortal time traveler.
There's a couple. There's a lot of pictures of Keanu Reeves, bro.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
He's another
creepy.
one.
Didn't they do the same thing with like Greta Thunberg or something? They were like finding pictures that look like her, but that's just because she looks like she's from like the 1800s.
Yeah, to be fair, multiple time generations could not handle a Greta Thunberg.
Or is it just Hollywood just continuously injecting themselves with stem cells or the blood of the youth?
Well, that would mean that they would have had the technology to do that.
What was that?
But I think we lost technology.
What was that
throughout
called? The
Rise
hydrochrome
and
or something like
Falls.
that?
Yeah, it's like a giant.
Yeah,
it's kind of creepy. I don't know, man. It's hard to believe that. Maybe nowadays they're doing it, but it's weird. It's hard to to justify it if you're thinking about the past. So like all those pictures of the guy that looks exactly like Keanu Reeves throughout history, they just wouldn't have the ability to inject themselves with those things.
So
Yeah.
since the human species
they are time
have
travelers.
yeah, but since the human species have been around, they expect we've had about 117 billion people born on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
In that 117 billion people, you're gonna have people that look like you. Like, in the combination of everything that you can look like, even if it's just like if their facial features are similar to yours, you're gonna look at it 200 years from now and be like, "Is that the same person?" Doesn't mean
Yeah.
they're the same.
That's
person.
fair too. And human perception of beauty and everything like that hasn't changed that much either. So it would be logical to think that if someone that looked like Keanu Reeves 200 and 300 years ago was alive, someone may have wanted to just paint him because they're like, hey, you have excellent facial features or whatever,
And you've seen those old paintings. They're not exactly accurate to what the person looked like.
No. But I will say
come
this,
on now.
But I will say the standard of beauty that has changed when you look at it historically. People that were what we would consider like overweight or just thicker than like an average slender build, they were considered desirable because it was a symbol of wealth. It was like they could afford to eat, they could afford the lavish lifestyle. So what we consider, at least the media and everything in the modern sense of beauty, of like the toned fit, like individual, that type of build, that would have been considered a lower class type of person back in the day. And we're talking like hundreds of years ago, because they would have been working outside, working in the fields, manual labor. They wouldn't have been eating as well or as lavishly, so they would have that type of physique.
Just a status symbol. That's all it was, man.
Yeah, and so like that was the desirable. But maybe the idea of beauty hasn't really changed, because while those women were desirable essentially to be courted by the lord of the area, how much infidelity was there?
True. I just had one too, and I lost it.
Lizard people.
Oh, do you think there actually is a water crisis?
Oh, what?
There's not a water crisis as much, because I was watching a video that explained it pretty easily. We're in no real danger of losing or not having enough water in the world, because here's the thing:
there's always water.
There's always water. The issue is coming up with the energy to desalinize it, because that's the thing. We have the technology to turn salt water into fresh water.
We have the technology. We will rebuild it.
But there's energy required in that process.
It's a large scale thing.
It's a large scale thing, and there's energy required. And at this point, nobody needs it, because we have enough fresh water, especially where we live. We live next to the 5 biggest bodies of fresh water on the planet. So
here's a counter argument to that. So are they saying that there's like just globally there's not enough fresh water for the people on Earth, or the fact that people just continuously live in areas where there's not water?
Fair.
That's a valid point too, because like if you live in Africa, like 1,000, 2,000 years ago, that would have been a tropical place, amazing for you to live in. It's not that way anymore, so it might be time for you to get out of town. Like, I'm sorry, like if you're consistently going through drought, you need to move your house somewhere else. Just like demolish the mud, go build another house somewhere else. Like, and I understand, like
they put up the interstate time to go.
I feel that way about like people in New Mexico and Arizona and Nevada. They're like, oh, we need water from the Great Lakes to come over here. It was like, no, you chose to live in the desert. Like, you get the desert. You don't need a green yard and a pool.
Like, yeah, no, because if you live in those areas, you don't get a lawn. That's part of the deal. You don't get a pool because you live in an area that water has to be conserved, and that's your choice. You don't get to come and take water from another area just because, we're all part of the United States, so we share. It's not how it works. We don't need your sand. So you can keep your sand. We'll keep our water. If you want more water, come over here. Like, I'm so sorry you decided to live there. I'm sorry that your entire family's lived there. Well, guess what? The environment changes around you. You got to adapt.
Yeah. All right. That's the way I feel about it too. It's like, no, you can't have our water.
No. Come live over here. There's plenty of space in Middle Michigan for you to settle down in. Come on over. Enjoy the waters here. That's fine.
Enjoy the water.
It's nice. Enjoy the water. It's nice. Like, you can't complain about that stuff. Like, I understand it's a terrible thing and people die and it happens. Drought can happen and it could be terrible. If it's like a one-off thing, like you guys have had rain, no problem all around, and then all of a sudden this year's been terrible and people are going to die if we don't get water to you. Yeah, we'll send water over, but it's not going to be a constant exchange thing. We're not just going to tap a pipeline to you and be like, all right, from now on, you can use our water. No, that's not how that works. It's almost as bad as like that garbage deal that we did.
That's what I was. Oh, Raj, we read each other's minds.
Yeah, that freaking garbage deal.
Creepy.
Yeah, dude, it was fucking stupid.
So yeah, what did they do? They brought over pigs that died from swine flu, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and dumped them.
And we just opened the door and be like, "Yeah, dump your carcasses here."
Now that was like, Detroit, right?
Yeah, but they were also doing garbage. Like we were like taking garbage from like other areas and like.
It's revenue. That's why. So Canada had a decent swine flu outbreak pretty much, and they had a bunch of dead pigs, and they were like, "Hey, Detroit, would you take them?" And Detroit said yes.
Well, here's the thing. There's a difference between taking animals because you can bury them in a pit, and guess what? They just disintegrate and turn into nutrients that you can then grow. It's a
Yeah.
difference between that and plastic waste and trash waste and things like that. Like, I don't, if you want to bury a bunch of dead pigs in our place, go to, like I said, go once again to Middle Michigan and dig a pit. And that's where all our farmland is. I'm sure they would appreciate all the fresh nutrients
Yeah,
for their soil.
Even if we do get like a payout from it, like a city does or a state or even the country, I mean, there needs to be a point where it's like, look, we can find other ways to make a buck. We can find other ways to save and reallocate money if they did it right, which our government doesn't.
Ooh,
But
I have a question for you.
like,
Once
we
you're
don't
done
need to
with
be
that.
taking other people's trash to get paid.
If we make a deal to send water over, does Canada get involved?
I'm the trash man. It's my character.
Does
Yeah,
because Canada owns half of that, right? So did they
So-
get involved?
Depending on what lake it comes from, Canada, I mean, they're international.
They're on all
waters,
of
so
our.
there
They're on.
would have.
I think
Not
Lake
Lake
Michigan's
Michigan.
the only one.
Yeah, that's the only one they're not.
But
in.
since they all feed off of each other, it does affect them.
So I mean, there probably
Or
would have
what
to
are they
be
gonna
some
do?
kind of talk.
That's like saying we can dam this one because it's on our land, but if the water leads to Canada, they have a problem, right? So
It would have to be an international talk.
yeah, it'd be an international issue at that point. So I don't think that would ever happen because I mean, why
Why?
would they give it out either?
Here's the thing: why doesn't the United States liberate Canada?
But
We don't want it. What the hell are we gonna do with Canada?
There's more fresh water up there and just
But-
land.
No,
I mean,
it's just the snow. There's
Can
just
you-
snow and tundra. Nobody wants that part of Canada. Nobody
Well-
lives in that part of Canada. Everybody that lives in Canada lives close to the border with the United States because that's where it's where you can survive. Anything
let's-
north of that is basically just polar bears and just wildlife and
Let's
meat.
think about this though. If we did liberate Canada, Texas would no longer be the biggest state. Michigan would.
What?
We'll just incorporate them into Michigan.
Yeah.
Oh, they would just be Upper Michigan. UP just becomes the largest.
Yeah.
It's like,
good.
hey,
That's funny.
that would, yeah. I mean, but here's the thing that look, while we're not going to rock the boat, they're our neighbors to the north. They'll never do anything. They know that they can't do anything. So they'll always be there as a backup plan.
The only thing they're
really
interested
just a
in
buffer
is screw.
zone.
They're really
Honestly,
the
they're
only
just-
thing they do is
that's
they
our
screw
wall.
over their own people.
That's just our wall. So Canada's our wall of land that's just there because nobody's going to try to invade from the north of Canada because they'll all die.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing they can do there. And then from the south is just desert. So it's flat desert. We'll see
It would be
anybody from a
hard.
mile away.
It'd be way harder to invade from Mexico than it would be from Canada.
Yeah.
'Cause Canada, you have a lot of staging areas. Mexico, not a lot of staging areas.
Yeah, it would not be great.
Especially with the Rio Grande right there.
And then they'd just be fighting the cartel.
Yeah, the cartel would
It'd
get
just be a
involved.
turf war.
We'd be funding the cartel like we did the Taliban.
We would, you're right. That's exactly what we
We'd
would
be like, these invaders are here for your land. Here's some M4s. Like, okay.
Well, and a lot of people don't realize that, like, compared to what it was 10 years ago, 12, 15 years ago, when we were in school and stuff, the towns in Mexico are considered significantly less dangerous than they were during that time that there was the height of, like, the cartel wars going on in the streets and everything. Juarez is probably still not a super safe place to be. However, it was once considered the murder capital of the world one year because of all the cartel violence going on there. In parts of the northern Yucatan where you have some of your like resorts and stuff, even outside of those in the smaller towns, they're regarded as actually relatively very safe. But yeah, I mean, you're muted.
Oh. It's safe-ish to say because, like, if you go from 200,000 murders to 150,000 murders, yes, it's technically safer.
Oh, they don't even have
Yeah,
anywhere
that-
near
yeah.
that in the Yucatan.
Yeah, so it's like it was really bad during like any of those cartel heydays. Like the Sinaloa cartel, I think was the biggest one, right? I think they're like the ones that were like because they made like a whole pack together, like all these
Well,
little groups.
A lot of the stuff now, while the drug trade and stuff is pretty heavy still,
Mhm.
a lot of your stuff is like the cartels, just like the mafia and the mob, have gotten into a lot of legitimate businesses, and it's just turned into funding legitimate businesses to then make money and then the money launder. Like it's gotten away from a lot of the like gunfight and drug toting to, not that that doesn't happen, but it's also too, like, I think in general you're seeing less high profile stories of, you know, people being kidnapped or killed over there. I mean, so there are places. Mexico City is essentially just considered just as much dangerous as any big city here in the US. So, you know, they say to exercise, there's a whole website of like travel.gov where all these countries and areas are broken down by the US government with different ratings of like severity of travel. And so, like, Mexico City is like exercise, you know, semi increased precautions or like normal precautions you would have in any big city, you know, muggings, all that kind of stuff. But then you go to these places like, I think Merida is the name of the city. It's over in the Yucatan, just west of Cancun, where like the resorts and stuff are. It's a super popular place for expats in the US to retire and like around the world, regarded as a super safe community, very low crime rate. And
Oh,
yeah.
here's a fun fact with cartel. You know, cartels. A lot of these resorts have deals with cartels where they pay the cartel, and the cartel just leaves that area alone, so that way they can have safe tourism.
Oh,
It blew my mind when I figured that out.
Yeah,
because it's just like, hey, you know, we know you're bad, but I mean, we just need to do some business. So can you just leave us alone?
because they make so much money on those resorts that it's just worth it for them to pay off the cartel, not to have to deal with it.
Yeah,
and the
it's either
cartel
do
is
that-
actively working to keep that area clean because they want
because they
that
need
revenue.
the tourism.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They
either do
still
that
need the
or
market.
hire guys with AK-47s to patrol a wall that you set up around it, and that doesn't look good.
No, that's Brazil, and that didn't work well for them either. Because during the World Cup, they did that. Brazil literally created a wall around the slums so that the people walking to the stadiums never saw the actual slums, even though the slums are like honestly one of the most iconic locations in Brazil, and people actively go to look at it.
Oh
like,
yeah, the favelas and everything.
The favelas, yeah.
Those are super dangerous. You do not want to go into the favelas. I was actually just watching a documentary recently on that of like how bad it actually is, and like, you good luck.
Yeah. So speaking of craziness, did you guys remember during the pandemic, at the height of the pandemic, there was a thing about 5G causing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for like a minute, I remember.
Yeah,
that.
it's still going on. They still think that 5G, because they were like, people were saying that they were getting headaches when the 5G thing came on, and I'm just sitting there like, maybe it's just like your placebo effect. Like, I don't understand. Like, because I feel like during the last 2 years, like, we've had conspiracy after conspiracy after conspiracy just like shoved down our throats. Because I don't think I heard of birds aren't real until the past 2 years.
Oh, that's been going on for a long time.
I knew birds aren't real in like 2013.
Oh yeah,
Really?
easy. Oh yeah,
Yeah, they're
that's been
government
around for at
drones.
least a decade.
Jewish space laser?
I mean, I feel like the Jewish people have always probably had a space laser.
They just decided the Holocaust wasn't a time to use it.
I mean, one of your conspiracy theories is like, I think it was Mel Gibson. I don't know if he still does or not, but the big old thing that was going around that he was like a Holocaust denier. That like the Holocaust just didn't happen.
No, but
There's a surprising amount of people that do that. There's a surprising number, especially authoritarian places. Like,
it kind of fits into the same camp of like, oh, those aren't nuclear bombs. Say, hey, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Oh, the Holocaust didn't actually happen. Like, they're conspiracy theories. Like, even with the overwhelming evidence and like life testimony of people that lived through it, they're like, no.
But like, okay, so like for them, I think it's just like a deniability, because like most of the time, there's still other countries doing this. Like, we talked about Myanmar doing this with Muslims. Like, we talked about China doing this with Uyghurs. Like, it's still happening, and it's beneficial for those companies or those countries to act like the Holocaust didn't happen, because then they're doing the same thing. But it's just weird to me that like all of a sudden I'm noticing, I don't know, maybe it's just I wasn't paying attention before, but I'm just noticing a lot more conspiracies pop up now.
It feels like it. I think it's a lot of people just grasping at whatever. Some people, they just don't care. They're just going to kind of sensationalize it, like everything, to get a click or a follow. I think honestly, that's where I'm coming from. A lot of this, I think a lot of this is sensationalization, because they know it gets the clicks, it gets the views. We're a society driven on influencers, social media, getting the clout. Like, people want the notoriety and the recognition without having to put in a lot of work for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like, and I feel like the internet it's at its stage right now is like the perfect place for, it's like a cesspool
Yeah, the
of
internet could
terrible
be used for a
ideas.
lot of good, and it still is in a lot of ways. But God, man, the internet is just a festering pit at this point. That almost
Mhm.
nothing good is coming out of it for people.
No, it just seems to be everything's
It is
negative.
it is crippling the new generations.
No, absolutely.
Social
Because
media specifically, not the internet itself. But because everything is being pushed to be linked to social media. Oh, you want to sign into this website or this company? Use your social media account. And like you can just use that as a login instead of creating one, or hey, follow us on social media for, extra, rebates and all these other things. Like everything is like social media driven nowadays.
do
And
you
they're being
remember
so inundated with it.
do you remember when like all these devices are listening to you and they're recording everything you say? That used to be a conspiracy, and
Yeah.
But
now
they
they just
are
don't even hide it anymore.
Now it's like, oh yeah, it is.
They don't hide it anymore. Like I
like the
can have a
targeted
conversation.
ads.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
like I remember, I distinctly remember it was like 2 years ago that I first started noticing, like, I'll have a conversation with my wife about something, and then an ad would pop up and be like, oh, that's interesting.
We were
And
just
then,
talking
like,
about
it
that.
just kept happening over and over again. If I Google anything, immediately ads on Instagram or Facebook.
Yep.
If you Google anything,
Yeah.
like, you can't even put anything on your phone anymore because you're not sure what's looking at. And, like, now it's gotten to the point where these companies have to give you the option to
Yeah.
say yes or no to that, which Apple did, and I'm like, okay, but
Well,
like,
a lot
why
of that
was
stuff came
that?
out of net neutrality and everything.
But have you ever had those times where you've never really talked about anything, but then you get an ad that appears for that thing that you never talked about?
You mean a
Wait, what?
coincidence, Tim?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a coincidence.
but it
Yes.
happens frequently.
I don't know. Maybe
But
it's
you got to
because you're.
remember too, you're probably interested in those things in some way, shape, or form. So like
Yeah.
a good example would be like if I was talking to my fiance about tires, right? Like, hey, I got to buy new tires, and then I get a bunch of ads for Bell Tire, Bridgestone, whatever, right? In theory, it's not a huge jump for the technology to be like, hey, also, here's brake pads, or
There's cars.
here's new cars, or here's a bed liner for
It's
your
an
truck.
algorithm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
I mean, it seems to be all just, it's a computer doing this.
yeah, I'd say,
Like,
Tim, you're
it takes
probably
information.
if it's coming up with the thoughts that you're having, I think you need to add another layer of tinfoil to that hat of yours.
It's
You need
reading
to
minds.
stop
It's
that.
taking one
You need to
step
stop
further.
it from reading your mind.
Oh, what's the thing? The Neuralink.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
I
I'm
was an
so
unknown test
excited for
subject.
that, bro.
Oh, I'm not.
Dude, put a fucking chip in my brain, Elon.
I am 100% never letting that
So-
ever happen to my
Oh
brain.
yeah, I'm down.
Here's the thing, though. If Elon Musk created a phone and a search engine, would you guys buy it?
Yeah.
The search
I-
engine.
I'd probably
Search
be down
engine
for
would
it
have to
more.
be free, but the Elon, yeah. Well, the thing is,
I would trust it so much more.
the worst Elon can do is just troll the hell out of me. Like, he just that's the worst he can do to me. He's just gonna absolutely just shit post.
That's
like,
the thing. All of my targeted ads are just going to be like, buy a Tesla. You know you want to.
I mean, and I do, but like, it's not gonna be wrong.
I will be honest. I was never sold on electric vehicles. I'm like,
Mhm.
that'll never work. But then the more I start looking at Tesla, even though they have their issues still, man, they're cool, man.
I want a
They are.
semi truck.
The company I work for just bought 65 electric semi trucks.
Oh,
Because the funny
Oh,
thing about
Tell
those
me
is
they're
that-
not from Nikola, because
No.
Nikola was doing it, and they came out to be an absolute fraud, and then
Yeah.
GM had to step in
Yeah.
to take them over. So
No, I don't remember what it's called. I'd have to
No,
look
like
it up for you.
because Tesla delivered to FedEx, I believe it was.
Mhm.
Because I think the Tesla semi truck is somewhere around $100,000 to $150,000,
Mhm.
which is about similar cost to a brand new like tractor. And
Ooh.
it was able to pull more up at like certain grades while still maintaining the speed limit with
Mhm.
really no gear shifting. I mean, because electric vehicle, but it was also able to go from Southern California to Northern California on a single charge.
Here's my question to you: would you guys ever get on a fully electric plane?
Plane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
fully
That's a
electric.
that is a hard negative, Ghost Rider.
No, dude, you got to have a backup.
All right.
But why you have these electric trucks running around?
Yeah,
Why not
well, my
Front's a
frontals?
little
electric
different.
truck doesn't fall 30,000 feet when I run out of battery.
But so here's my problem with electric vehicles, though, right? Electric vehicles are not old or are not new. Like they tried electric vehicles
Yeah, and then the regular
Before.
cars crushed them into. You know how advanced we
performance.
would be? Yes, yeah, we know, but they didn't even allow them to be sold. Like they were sued or pretty much turned into obscurity, so that way they would never actually propagate anything. Like
They're so inefficient, though.
yes, back
And
in the day. Think about battery technology now. If we had focused on it back in the
but then
day,
like all the components that go into creating like a lithium ion battery and all the other materials is not feasible for reducing global impact for like carbon emissions or global warming, because you're strip mining giant areas to get a small amount of an element, and the amount of processing to get from that raw element to the form in which you need it to actually make the electric vehicle. Like your tires on an electric vehicle, they're still rubber. Where does that rubber come from? Oh, oil. Oh, there's still plastic in your electric vehicle. Where does that come from? Oh, oil. Like it's
yes,
not any
they
more
all come from
green.
it. But here's the thing: it's about reducing it. It's about reducing. Now, I understand your idea of the batteries. They are a huge in terms of like there's a surprising amount of fresh water used in the creation of batteries too,
Oh yeah,
which is an added thing.
they suck resources.
But like, I want to know the difference between using a battery powered vehicle for 10 years, which is the usual life of the batteries in a Tesla, versus using a gas operated vehicle for that 10 years.
Are you talking
And
about you're curious to find the like
the actual carbon influence
oh
comparative to the one to the other. Now, they're also working on recycling these batteries.
Yeah,
Like there are innovations that are going to come in the
Yeah,
future that'll
Tesla's
take care of these
making
problems.
Tesla's making plants to like recycle their own batteries.
Yeah,
But-
so
And
that
they're
way you're not
actually
creating more.
But
actually
then, for
currently
example,
testing.
Mm-hmm.
a power company here in Michigan was interviewed by a news organization because they were getting some electric vehicles. So they put electric vehicles chargers on the power company's property, like at their
Mhm.
headquarters. And guess where that power comes from? Oh yeah, the power company still uses an 80% coal to produce the power to charge the electric vehicle.
Sure,
Well,
but
in
that's
case you
not.
didn't read the news, Mr. Whitford, fission energy is the future. So
Yeah,
I
but
think nuclear energy would be way safer and cleaner because it requires such a tiny amount.
yeah, but here's the what you're saying is basically yes, they're using coal powered and they're using carbon based, but we're completely removing carbon base from the car equation. So yes, we still have carbon emissions, but it's lowered now because there's less cars on the road that are spewing additional carbon on top of it.
it's baby steps.
Yeah, so it's
It
steps
seems
in
big, but
place.
it's actually baby steps.
Yeah.
Also, I have to correct myself. I don't know why I said 65. It was 2. I think what I read was they're planning on having 65 in the next 3 years.
Hmm.
So they just got their first 2, and it's from e-mobility, built in Detroit.
I've
Gotcha.
never.
I haven't heard of them, but actually, what I found really interesting is a lot of these cars obviously still use the lithium ion batteries because that's the best battery technology we have at the moment.
Mhm.
I've seen a resurgence of people investigating hydrogen power again. But then also the biggest thing that I came across is there's actually some promising initial research going into making batteries out of hemp.
I mean, here's the thing. In the last 10 years, 10 years ago, Tesla was the name. They had their cars, their batteries, and that's the thing. But now you're seeing EV cars come from everybody, including the big boys. And the big boys have what's called the R&D money.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that are going to innovate into the future. Without Tesla, I fully give them credit. Without Tesla, there is no electric cars like we see now in the day.
Yeah,
It just doesn't exist. Tesla put on the show that gave us, and showed the sales statistics to back up what they had, and that opened the eyes of
they were
these
the front
giants.
runners.
Yeah.
You
But
have an
also,
EV Hummer now a EV Hummer.
That thing's pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie.
It's sick, but it's just like it's a ridiculous thing. But these things are coming in. Generally, what's going to happen is battery technology will get better, costs will go down. There'll be ways to make this maintain. Nobody said that, oh, we make battery a car now and all of a sudden we're saved. That's just not how it works. We're just going to have to figure out, and maybe we'll have a hydrogen electric combination like we had with electric and gas. And they'll do combinations.
Wasn't it Granholm who said that oh, if you can't afford gas at this price, then just buy an electric vehicle? Yeah, if I can't afford gas, I'm not going to be able to afford an electric vehicle.
No.
Well, they also did the breakdown too of like filling a car with gas and charging an electric vehicle. It's really not that much of a cost savings.
What are you talking about?
On electric vehicles,
a
right?
full charge on an electric vehicle is like 85 cents.
Yeah. But
well, so there was some other breakdowns of like maybe not that initial charge, but over the life of it with different things that go into it, the cost breakdown was a savings, but not as significant as much as people thought it was.
So if
I can't make sense of that math.
I'll try to find it and send it to you, man. I saw it a while back. I don't even remember where.
So let's say your friend drives to your house, right? You guys are going to hang out and he plugs his electric vehicle into your house. Would you let him?
Yeah.
Would you let him go to your 5-gallon gas tank that you use for your lawnmower to top off his fuel tank before he leaves your house?
No, that's the benefit of electric cars.
But you'd pay for him to charge his car, but not to top off his fuel tank with gasoline.
I mean, to be fair, that probably would cost less.
That's a huge cost difference, though.
Yeah,
well, it's the same like concept though.
The concept can be the same, but it's more of a pain in the ass for me to go and then get more fuel for my lawnmower than it is for him to just plug his car into my outlet and then he just goes on his way. I don't have to replenish anything.
On its face, it's a similar concept until you start thinking about it critically, and then it just falls apart.
Come on now, yeah, just like it. I think on average they were saying that to go from no charge to full charge is anywhere from 85 cents to like $1.50 in charge, like, and that's for one full, and I'm admitting these cars don't have the range that gas cars do.
No, I think the best
cold climates.
I think the best like Tesla like battery charge on like if you get the long range
like 430 upgrade,
yeah, like tops is like 400 something.
I mean, and that's far enough for you to get throughout the state, but we're not making any road trips in a Tesla. It's just not possible.
You can. I've seen people do it. I've actually explored Teslas a lot.
It's an inconvenience.
Not really, not anymore, because there's supercharger stations that they're adding across the country. They are within the drivable distance of that Tesla everywhere you go.
So that here's the issue. To go from no charge to full charge is about a 2-hour process.
That is the inconvenience of it.
So when you go and stop somewhere, you got to go and take a 2-hour break from whatever you're doing, and then go another 250 to 400 miles and do another 2-hour. So your 10-hour trip now turns into a 12 to 14-hour trip.
Yeah. The superchargers, I know they do it quicker, but I don't know exactly how much.
Because it does the first 15% really fast. So if it's like an emergency, it'll like go. But then after that, it has to take standard power.
Because even if you do the upgrade to your home to put in, I don't know what it is, the 180 or like the 200 line that you can charge your car off of, it still takes like a full night to charge it.
And I do believe that if you own a Tesla in Michigan, you need a garage.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, you need a garage. There's no other way.
You can't really park that baby outside.
No, it's not an outside car. So if you can get to that point,
at the very least, you'd have to have covered parking.
Covered parking, and then you'd have a way to cover your electrical outlet too, because if you wanted to reach the covered parking, you need access to it. So
like
there's still logistical issues. Good. Yeah, logistical issues that come into play and that's why I'm saying it's still in its infancy. Like we've seen the big three get involved, and these guys have R&D money to throw, and you see that they're committed to it. So
but at least from what I saw initially when I brought up the whole hemp battery thing, which at first I was like, hemp, like everybody's big on this stuff. Like, well, let's just make everything out of it.
I remember like, hemp shirts and hemp underwear.
Everybody will make everything out of it. But so it's actually a really obviously renewable and sustainable resource. It can be used for a lot of good things. And then at least the initial articles that I looked at on it, when that first like came out, like, I don't know, a year ago when I saw the article on it, that there's actually a lot of promises. Like, it looks really promising to be able to, I don't know how they're doing it with the technology. I didn't get that far into it, but like to be able to utilize it in battery production to not only be renewable and recyclable, but produce just as much power, if not more, than a lithium ion battery.
Yeah, and there's things that come into play because the amount of hemp I'm assuming it would take to produce raw materials to then produce a battery is going to be a lot. And then you have to look at the fact that hemp takes a lot of water.
It does.
Like it takes a lot of water to grow any of these plants. Like, so
That's just
you're
kind of the
either,
problem we run into. Like, no matter what we do and what we try, everything we want to do basically to have the conveniences and the necessities of our society, it takes a lot of resources, man.
it's a tight balance on how much can we reduce at the same time while we try to make
Well,
advancements, right?
And even if we try to do due diligence and reduce like emissions and like what we're trying to do, what we can to take care of the environment, the top 30 most polluting cities in the world don't even reside in this country.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of having the world involved in the process too.
Yeah. Until you get the buy-in there, it's not going to make a difference.
But
Yeah,
you
why
have
can't we
to
blame China and India for the world's problems?
we're just behind you in the step. You guys polluted it in the 1800s. We're just doing it now. Deal with it.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
yeah, you guys went through your old industrial age a while back, so we're just going through ours now. Like that's why I don't blame these countries that are coming up for being polluters, is because that's their stage. That's where they're at. They're an industrial civilization.
But
Like,
the countries on that side of the world have been there for far longer than the United States has.
yeah, but we haven't been actual countries for as long as you guys have. India was created literally in 1940s.
But India has always been India.
It has been India, but it's never been a one country civilization. It's never gone through an industrial age. Before that, it was all kingdoms.
yeah,
It wasn't an
broken up,
actual,
like,
yeah. And
But
before
Europe
that,
was all kingdoms prior.
yeah, but
That
Europe
continuously advanced.
No, now you're just
In
trolling me.
China,
Now you're just trolling me. You're trying to convince me that India was developed enough to have any kind of industrial process. Everything India did while the British were ruling was meant for just war efforts.
oh yeah,
India
because that's
in
all the British wanted to do.
Yeah, India was the top exporter of spices. India was the top exporter of fabrics and linen before Britain came over. We never got a chance. We should have had our industrial revolution in like the 1800s with the rest of the world, because we were part of the global market at that time too. But
Right.
we didn't get that chance. England was able to have a massive. You
during
think
Brits.
England would be anywhere close to what they are now without the help of all the countries that they took over? Like that small, tiny as dirty island would be nothing.
No, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, like, even if you have the innovators, like, without the resources and what you're actually, essentially, you're exporting resources, knowledge from these other areas that you colonize, and basically incorporating that into your society.
Yeah, and China didn't modernize until after World War II either, because they were pretty much destroyed by the Japanese.
China did beat all of us to guns, though.
Yeah, they did. They just never learned how to actually use them.
Yeah, and now you come to America, baby, and we know what's up with guns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like these countries are going to have polluters. You're going to have polluters, and you're going to have these countries that are doing it. It's going to be the stage, but the rest of the world that have already gone past it, that point have to be the balance of that wheel.
I might not have any more conspiracy theories myself for tonight, but all I want to know is what's inside Area 51, man.
I've got a really good question for you. Something that I've actually thought about as well. It's not really a conspiracy as much as it is like a personal debate for me. Is Edward Snowden a patriot or a traitor?
Patriot.
The whole WikiLeaks thing.
No. Edward Snowden's the guy that
He worked for the NSA.
he's the NSA guy.
Who am I thinking of with WikiLeaks?
That's Julian Assange.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that dude was a douche. I don't care about him.
I mean, he still leaked highly sensitive NSA stuff.
Would we know about all the stuff our government was doing to us?
No. It would have
Without
been
him.
conspiracy theories until
Mhm.
he released the
He
information
proved
that
it.
proved it was true.
For the people, by the people. Yes, he broke the rules in terms of leaking that information, but it was pretty goddamn important information.
I mean, it's the old adage, a man's either called a traitor or a liberator, but it depends on who writes the history. So,
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where,
As an everyday person, though, he didn't betray you.
no, and I'm not arguing that he was. I'd say I'd probably be in the camp of, I'd rather have that knowledge because the government has been doing us dirty far longer than that man would have been.
Mhm.
So the thing is,
Just think about the
I'm one of those,
bravery it took.
obviously, where I come from too, is kind of that like fundamentalist idea of like when you look at the Constitution, Second Amendment, at least in my opinion, it wasn't founded and created so that you could go out and hunt a deer with your kids. Like part of the Declaration of Independence and everything like that basically tells you that like it's a duty of a people to regulate their government, to essentially do what must be done if they blah 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 get in power
Mhm.
too much. So essentially, I mean, yeah, I don't have a problem with what he did. Did he break the law technically? Yeah. Is he going to get punished for it? Yeah, he did. But I mean, he did it because he thought it was right. And sometimes the right thing isn't necessarily what is legal.
Mhm.
I mean, if you think about it, for a long time, you had a lot of things that were legal that were not morally right. The
Mhm.
sterilization of the mentally ill, the things that like I mean, there's so many examples throughout history. They were legal at the time. It doesn't make them right.
But in the 21st century, does that make a difference? What age we're in terms of our access to knowledge, our access and our ability to perceive everything that's going on in the world simultaneously versus just having a narrowed look. Because in the 70s, in the 50s, they could have sold this off as a rogue trader and we would have known nothing about it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, ultimately, I think what he did to bring to light a lot of the underhanded, shady things the government's doing, someone
Mhm.
had to do it. Otherwise, we were going to be in the dark. So,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with what he did.
But the issue with me that I have is in the courts, if he were to ever come back to the States, he would never get a fair trial.
No.
He's technically
Clintons
worked
would
he worked for the
assassinate him
DOJ, so he would go to military court. And in military court, they've already ruled that what he exposed in terms of the issues within the United States cannot be used in defense for him.
Well, not to
It's
mention,
just-
too, like, I mean, it's one of those things, too, where, like, do we have the law? Yeah. Like, do we think that he should be prosecuted for it? A lot of us probably don't because of the things that he exposed. However, I mean, technically, he did break the law. So, I mean, he's going to face a punishment for it. That was kind of one of the prices to be paid for doing that. While we have a net benefit from it, I would say, I mean, they're going to still look at it as he broke the law. And if somebody said, did he break the law? You can't say no.
Mhm.
That comes down to a question now: is that law just based on the circumstances, the rule of law versus the concept of law? Like, well, what they call I'm drawing a blank on a legal concept. It's the text of the law versus like the meaning of the law.
I think my problem, like, I don't have an issue with what he did, but I have an issue with how society reacted to it because we just continued to allow the government to run uncontrolled. I mean, it's blatantly obvious in like the Twitter files and the feds intercepting in, internet communications and with like Facebook, Google, Apple, Twitter, like censoring specific sides or opinions, even if they could have been correct. Like, I think the problem is that we're just continuously allowing the government to operate in the shadows.
Well, I think it's a fair point. I mean, I'd say like even if we agree that what he did was important, he brought to light a lot of good information. Tim makes a fair point. The American people as a whole essentially have ignored it and not really done anything about it.
We are out of time.
Dang. My tinfoil hat was just getting warmed up.
I know. I'm sorry.
We got more tinfoiling to do.
But that means that there could always be a part 3 down the road.
Oh, there will be. I'm sure there will be.
I think we had some good topics. I was able to get my rant out for the flat earthers. You know who you are. Go sink in a hole somewhere.
I think it was good.
Yeah, I think we had some good topics. We talked about.
It was very tinfoily.
It was
times.
Oh yeah.
His Tim's favorite episode every season.
Yeah, exactly. Like first his tinfoil hat was just a normal little like hat, but now it's got like antenna that he built on it.
He's building a whole mothership.
Next
on his
episode,
head.
he's gonna have a little tinfoil satellite receiver on top of it.
Yeah. The alien overlords are telling him the truth.
Yeah, good old Xenu and them Thetans.
Thetans.
Well,
Well, guys,
yeah.
thank you so much for listening to this episode. We're having fun with season 2. We've got some more exciting topics for you guys to talk about.
A lot more exciting.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. And, please feel free to leave us comments, any suggestions you guys would have that want to talk about. I know we took a longer break, but we wanted to spend some time with our family and, get away from the production of this for a little bit. But, we're back. This is going to be episode 2, right?
Yep.
Episode 2. And, we're going to go in and have a really good season of Drunk with Questions. And we're going to see where it goes. So appreciate you guys.
To all our listeners, we have some goals that we set for ourselves this season. And the only way that we're going to be able to get to it is with your help. So, as I always say, make sure you get us out there. Tell people you like, tell people you don't like. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, I don't care. I'll take anybody that'll listen to us at this point. Please make sure to follow us on any of our social medias that you feel comfortable doing so, because I know some people don't like certain social medias now. And with that, does anyone have anything final they want to say? Okay. Well,
Those people are real.
As
Keep your hat
always,
shiny. It helps reflect the bad thoughts.
as always, my friends, stay ordinary.
As always, everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Drunk with Questions.
Drunk with Questions wouldn't be possible without incredibly ordinary individuals such as yourselves. Make sure you join the Drunk with Questions crew every Sunday on your preferred podcast streaming website. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, and subscribe on all of our social media pages. And feel free to reach out to us by email at any time.